The Lindsay Clancy murder trial heating up. Prosecutors say Clancy planned the murders of her 3 children, 5-year-old Cora, 3-year-old Dawson, and 8-month-old Callan, before then faking a suicide attempt. The defense has argued that even though Clancy admits to killing her children, she was suffering from severe postpartum psychosis and should not be held criminally responsible. Chris Hinkle is a retired FBI supervisory agent, and Dr. Carol Lieberman is a forensic psychiatrist. Thank you both for joining us. So, Carol, when you look at a person like this, how do you determine what the intention was in their head? It seems so difficult to determine that.
Yes, it is difficult, and you look at reports by people. You look at, in this case, you have her own diary, and clearly there are enough signs. Of course, there are also the mental health professionals, but most of them were incompetent. All of them were incompetent, really, so far that we've seen. And so we can't trust all the things that they wrote down, that they didn't include things like psychosis and hallucinations and so on. Mm-hmm. But she told her husband, that she was suicidal on numerous occasions. She was hospitalized for being suicidal. Now, that doesn't mean that she was psychotic at the moment, but there were other things where she wrote about, interestingly, she talked about hearing a voice, a male voice, telling her to kill her children because if she's going to kill herself, they won't have a mother. Now, the problem is that her husband gave different testimony because he was, thinking not only of her, but he was thinking of the case that they have against the treaters, and he was thinking about how angry he was. He was very much pulled in a lot of different directions when he was giving testimony.
Chris, what is the key thing that juries look for in something like this? Because she was medicated, she was on a lot of different medications. She clearly had reached out for help. They're going to argue that the help that she got made it worse, not better. But then there is this aspect of her internet use and tracking that, and the fact that she had Googled, psychosis, suicide methods, hallucinations. Do those work for or against her?
Well, in conducting these types of investigations, we let the facts speak for themselves, and juries must be able to separate the presence of severe mental illness from the legal standard of criminal responsibility. Our job is to deliver a complete factual picture, digital, physical, and medical, so they can decide on evidence rather than emotion. The digital trail that she has, Apple Watch data, mapping searches, and the precise timing of her husband's errands gives investigators a clear window of opportunity. That evidence helps determine whether the actions reflect sequential planning or pure impulsivity. In parental homicide cases, we reconstruct both the physical scene and the behavioral scene. The basement location, the use of the exercise bands, and the subsequent self-inflicted injuries create a sequence that must be matched against phone records and witness statements.
And Doctor, some have suggested that she faked this suicide attempt. She did end up paralyzed from the waist down, but they're saying that all of this, the prosecution claim is all of this was planned.
Well, first of all, being able to plan some things and being psychotic at the moment that she strangled the children are not, they both can exist. And so I obviously believe that she did have postpartum psychosis, but also, the medications play a role with this too, because they were acting on her brain and they were interacting with each other in ways that were not healthy. And so this contributes to her psychosis, to the moment of when she did when she killed them.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, as a mom, I think that if I went in and I was sitting there as a juror and I'm hearing, I just can't fathom first a parent doing this. But when you think about the things that she said she was suffering from, going into the hospital, all this stuff, it does present the picture of a person who could have been so mentally distraught and over-medicated that she could do something like this and not intend to be killing her children. How does the prosecution fight against that? Because our natural sympathy is for someone who is going through traumatic events.
Well, strangulation is intimate and personal. It can signal control, rage, a distorted protective belief. Distinguishing between those motives requires both solid forensics and thorough psychiatric evaluation. In mental health defenses involving postpartum psychosis and medication effects are among the hardest we face. Complete medical records, journals, contemporaneous observations are essential so the jury has facts, not competing narratives. And that immediate suicide attempt after the children's death is significant, but it doesn't automatically prove lack of criminal responsibility. Investigators examine the full sequence, planning indicators beforehand, and medical evidence of the injuries for consistency.
All right. Chris Hinkle and Dr. Carol Lieberman, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,